How can one ever come to terms with the unimaginable betrayal of trust, a betrayal that forever alters the course of a life? Before we get into this story, I want to say a big welcome to all our viewers, especially if you're new here. If you love true crime stories packed with suspense, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Tonight, I present a case that has gripped a nation, the tragic murder of 9-year-old Charlize Mutton. In January 2022, in a quiet corner of the Blue Mountains west of Sydney, a horrifying crime took place at the home of Justin Stein's family. This home, once a symbol of family luxury and security, became the backdrop for a series of events that would shatter lives. This is the story of how a trusted figure, the man known as Daddy by a little girl, turned his back on the innocence of childhood. In a series of events that defy belief, Charlize was taken from this world by the very person her mother, Callista Mutton, had once embraced as a part of her future. Even more shocking was what unfolded afterward, a web of deception, drugs, and a night that saw the life of an innocent child stolen away. In an interview that aired on television, Callista broke her silence, describing how, after the murder, she was taken on a trip to Sydney to buy drugs with the man who had committed the unthinkable. This is a story of trust betrayed, of deception so deep that even the victim's mother had no idea what was happening right before her eyes. Charlize Mutton was just 9 years old when she traveled from Queensland to New South Wales for what was meant to be a happy holiday. She was visiting her mother, Callista Mutton, and her mother's fiancé, Justin Stein. For Charlize, this wasn't just any visit. It was a chance to spend time with a man she had been taught to trust, a man her mother had chosen to build a future with. The setting seemed perfect. A luxurious estate in the Blue Mountains, a place where families went to relax and escape the city's chaos. It should have been safe. It should have been a weekend filled with laughter and memories. Instead, it would be the last trip Charlize ever took. Charlize's last known moments of happiness were spent playing in a swimming pool. A simple joy of childhood. Hours later, her mother made a decision that would haunt her forever. She allowed Justin Stein to take Charlize back to his family's home while she stayed elsewhere. At the time, it didn't seem like a dangerous choice. Stein was someone she trusted, someone Charlize knew. But trust can be misplaced. And in this case, it led to something unthinkable. That evening, while Charlize was alone at the Stein property, something changed. Stein wasn't acting like a loving stepfather. He wasn't looking after Charlize. Instead, he was browsing dating websites and watching disturbing content online. Then, at some point, the unthinkable happened. Charlize was drugged with Stein's schizophrenia medication. Investigators would later piece together the horrifying truth. Charlize ran from the property, trying to escape, but she never made it far. She was shot twice, once in the hip. Then, with calculated cruelty, Stein stepped closer and fired again. This time, a direct shot to the head. Charlize was gone, but Stein wasn't finished. He had a problem now, a body to hide. And so, he did what so many criminals do. He started to lie. He returned to Callista Mutton and told her Charlize was with a trusted friend, someone looking after her while she wasn't feeling well. Callista had no reason to doubt him. After all, why would she? She had no idea that just hours earlier, her little girl had been murdered. But the deception didn't stop there. Stein convinced Callista to take a trip to Sydney with him. She thought it was just time together as a couple. What she didn't know was that while they were buying drugs, while they were getting high, while they were having sex in a public park, Stein was already planning his next move. Somewhere out there, Charlize's body remained hidden. Stein knew he had to dispose of her remains. But first, he needed to keep Callista distracted. And for days, his web of lies worked. When Callista finally asked to see Charlize, Stein's lies became even more elaborate. He told her the child had been kidnapped by dangerous people, drug dealers he owed money to. He warned Callista not to go to the police, saying that if she did, they would both be killed. Callista, still unaware of the awful truth, was terrified. She believed him. But while Callista was worrying about Charlize, Stein was making his next move. He was caught on CCTV buying a barrel. A large one. He purchased bags of sand, too. It was a horrifying realization for investigators later. Stein had planned every step of what came next. Stein loaded the barrel into the back of his ute. Inside, hidden from view, was Charlize's body. He drove for hours, making stops, possibly searching for the perfect place to leave her remains. At one point, He even stopped at a dock in Drummoyne, sitting there for hours. He later admitted to smoking cannabis while parked there, with Charlie's body still in the vehicle. Meanwhile, Callista had finally realized something was deeply wrong. When they went to pick Charlie's up from the so-called friend's house, there was no sign of her. Desperate, she started calling hospitals. Stein's response? Cold. Empty. She's not going to be there. You're not going to find her. Investigators retraced Stein's movements, and soon, they uncovered the barrel. Inside was Charlie's body, wrapped up and hidden away like she was nothing. But Charlie's was something. She was someone. And now, the search for justice had begun. Stein was arrested that same day. When confronted with the evidence, he didn't confess. Instead, he did something even more shocking. He blamed Callista. He claimed she had killed Charlize and that he had merely helped dispose of the body. But the evidence told a different story. It took 8 long days of deliberation, but the jury saw through Stein's lies. He was found guilty of Charlize's murder. The judge did not hold back. She described his actions as cold and calculated, stating that Charlize's death was not survivable and not intended to be. Justin Stein was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He would never walk free again. Callista Mutton would never hurt her daughter, but she would forever live with the guilt of trusting the wrong man. She has since turned her life around, but nothing can bring Charlize back. Despite the horror, one thing must be remembered. Charlize Mutton was a little girl who deserved so much more. She was not just a victim. She was a child with a future, a child who should have been protected. Justice was served, but no sentence can undo what happened. Charlize Mutton, gone too soon, will never be forgotten. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Do you think justice was served? Should there be even harsher punishments for crimes like this? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more true crime stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching. And as always, stay safe.